I'm Gordon Smith. I am a psychic medium. I see, hear and sense the spirit world that surrounds us all. My gift means that I can tune into people's destiny, reconnect the spirit world with this one, and help those in need. Each week I meet a top British celebrity for a very special one-to-one psychic reading. This week I'm talking to a music legend, a multi-talented singer, songwriter and member of one of the most successful pop groups of all time. It's Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees. The Gibb Brothers' catalogue of songs is one of the most successful in the world, second only to the Beatles. Over 5 decades, they have sold a staggering 200 million records, been nominated for 16 Grammys, received a Brit Lifetime Achievement Award, inaugurated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and made commanders of the British Empire. The three brothers first performed in the 1950s, and by the 1960s, they were teenage stars at the height of the pop music explosion.
But we had this blind belief and this really sort of strong feeling that to be in it is to win it. We've got to be there, to be anywhere, and London was the place to be.
I'm going back to Massachusetts.
But it was really the 1970s which musically belonged to the Bee Gees. During this time, they produced 6 US #1 hits, including their most famous, the soundtrack to the iconic film of the decade, Saturday Night Fever. It won the band a Grammy Award and created a cultural revolution. In the 1980s, they wrote and recorded songs for the biggest artists of the day: Diana Ross, Dolly Parton, Dionne Warwick and Barbra Streisand. Yet despite phenomenal worldwide success, their lives have been blighted by tragedy. The Bee Gees' younger brother Andy was also a pop star, but died suddenly from heart problems at the age of 30. And then in 2003, Robin's twin brother Maurice tragically passed away from complications following a hospital operation. The world waited to see if Barry and Robin would ever perform as the Bee Gees again. I spent a day with Robin at his luxury mansion in Oxfordshire and was able to give him a reading which reassured him that those he had loved and had lost were still very much a part of his life. Robin Gibb is one of the most successful singer-songwriters Britain has ever produced. As a member of the Bee Gees, along with older brother Barry and twin brother Maurice, he has been writing and performing songs for the last 40 years. The first time I meet Robin Gibb is a cold winter's night at a children's charity event for the Outward Bound Trust. On stage that evening, he is joined by stars like Lulu, Beverly Knight, Bill Wyman and Mel C. Seeing and hearing the performances remind me of the vast body of work produced by the Bee Gees and how for many of us, their music has been a soundtrack to our lives. It just brought back so many memories to me. All these Bee Gees songs that have come through all different parts of my life, and I'm sure everybody felt the same.
Well, the one thing I pride myself on is, with my brother Barry and my brother Maurice, who is no longer with us, is that we're songwriters first and foremost, and writing songs for other people. We weren't just for ourselves. And I think, being songwriters, that is something to be that I pride myself on.
Well, I know I'm going to meet up with you later on in the week, and I hope that what I can bring to you brings some kind of upliftment, something positive and something very interesting for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come on, everybody. You want to sing this one? Let's hear you. Oh, say away. You can say
has a hectic schedule, so it's another 6 months before I actually get to meet him again. This time, it's a sunny summer's day at his stunning mansion in Oxfordshire. Hi, Robin. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Owen. Come on in.
Thank you. Thank you. Robin, his wife Dweena and son RJ split their time between 3 homes, 2 in Britain and 1 in Miami. The Oxfordshire home is steeped in history, dating back to the 13th century. It is said to be a former monastery and the place where the famous St. Joan of Arc's fate was decided. Robin and his twin brother Maurice were born on the 22nd of December 1949 to proud parents Barbara and Hugh Gibb. Their brother Barry was 3 years older and he would later become the lead singer of the band. The family's early years were spent on the Isle of Man, where their father Hugh, who loved music, would perform in local bands at night. It was almost inevitable that Hugh's passion for music would have a huge influence on the 3 brothers. So can you remember how it all started?
As a hobby,
Yeah.
listening to the radio, challenging each other to write records.
What age would you have
and
been
so on.
then?
About 7,
Wow.
6 or 7. Barry about 9. And we'd listen to the radio and say, let's pretend we're writing certain songs for people. And that was our hobby.
Did you find it quite easy or was it effortless to sort of produce songs in those days? Or?
We were always interested. Once we started getting interested in writing songs, we got interested in records and how they were made.
The boys' musical career took off with performances at the local cinema, where they would stand up and sing just before the film came on. In 1958, baby brother Andy was born, and during a bitterly cold winter that year, a big decision was made.
Work was very hard to come by for my father in those days, and the late 50s wasn't a very good time to try and bring up a big family, so we had to move to Australia and try and put down roots there. We spent a few years there, and in Brisbane first. When we went to Sydney, that's where all the big record labels were, and we got in touch with Johnny O'Keefe, who was one of the biggest singers at the time in Australia. It was also on festival and on television, so we were able to get on national television at the same time. And then we appeared at Sydney Stadium, where top of the bill was Chubby Checker.
Oh, wow.
And we came after him, and then Johnny O'Keefe. So we were sandwiched between the two. So that was our first experience of live audiences, and we had to deliver. And I think we were about 13 at the time.
Over the next 7 years, Robin, Maurice and Barry honed their singing skills performing at clubs in Sydney. They were soon talent spotted and began appearing on major television shows. And it wasn't long before they landed their first record deal in 1963 with Festival Records. Barry was 17 and the twins Robin and Maurice were just 14 years old.
And we were sort of thrown in at the deep end.
Yeah. As performers?
Yeah, but it wouldn't bother us too much, because we kind of knew we were very young anyway, and that it was very difficult to marketing us as kids to even to a teenage audience, which was only marginally older, was kind of a light year for a record company. So it was that difference. But the good thing is we were utilising the time to what we thought to develop where we wanted to go, rather than thinking, are we going to make it with this record? I can't really think there was anything else I would rather have done.
Sure.
People say, was it easier to start out then, or I think it was harder, because you had to hold a note.
Absolutely.
You had to be good live.
Yeah, you couldn't dub things then on live sets,
Exactly.
could you?
And so, it's, for me, I'm glad we started out in the time we started out.
Back in Britain, the pop scene had exploded with the Beatles and London had become the centre of the world music business. So the 20-year-old Barry and 17-year-olds Robin and Maurice made the decision to return to England. Soon after arriving in the UK, their hit single Spick and Speck reached #1 in Australia. Their record company rang, begging them to come back.
We said no, because this encourages us, it gives us the encouragement to go forward.
It seemed the brothers were destined to be successful, no matter what side of the globe they were on.
this country was leading popular music in America for the first time in its history, and it was actually, America was looking to the UK for the next big thing all the time, for whatever it is. We were broke, and we were sleeping on floorboards in Hendon, and we had nothing. And within 2 weeks, Robert Stigwood, Brian Epstein's partner, was on the phone to us. And that's how it started.
Coming up, I discover more about those early years of success.
Everything sort of balanced on what England was going with next. And it was a great knife edge to be on.
And a message from one of Robin's famous brothers comes through loud and clear. Robin Gibb is one of the leading figures in the music industry. He and his brothers Maurice and Barry formed the Bee Gees back in the 1950s, and their careers have spanned 5 decades, with the group selling 200 million records. There is no doubt that Robin's place in music history is unrivaled. Today, Robin divides his time between homes in Miami, the Isle of Man, and his spectacular mansion in Oxfordshire, which once was an old monastery.
And this is what the old Star Chamber used to be. Actually, we call it a coronation room.
Wow.
But this is where Joan of Arc was sentenced in the 1400s.
Amazing, isn't it?
And this is where the Bishop of London, Bishop of Winchester and Lincoln sat and made that declaration. So it would have been in this room, and that's an original 14th century fireplace right there. And this is a guitar.
What's a guitar? Talking of which...
The contrast is heady.
Exactly. Talking of which, what was it like sort of coming through London, say, in the 60s?
It was so intense. This activity, coming from Sydney and arriving off the ship, working our way over, and then suddenly in this maelstrom of activity and competition.
With the worldwide success of the Beatles, Britain had become the centre of the pop music scene. And London was the place to be if you wanted to make it as a recording artist.
People don't realise how young the Bee Gees were at the start of our career, because most of the groups were 10 years our senior. And we were literally kids when we were starting out. Even, you know, in the higher spheres of the record industry, where we wanted to be, we were very, very early starting, which was a good thing, really, because we saw it as time to develop. And there's millions of groups. And, of course, you've got this London being the centre of the music industry as it was then for the whole world.
Of course.
Including America, and everything sort of balanced on what England was going with next. And it was a great knife edge to...
Were you kind of aware, that you were a part of all of that, or was it just something that...
But we had this blind belief and this really sort of strong feeling that to be in it is to win it. We've got to be there to be anywhere, and London was the place to be. Everything could have gone totally wrong.
Totally.
But it wasn't the nightlife, like, for instance, the Speakeasy, the Cromwellian nightclubs. You could go down there, you would see Otis Redding, you could see a member of The Who or John Lennon and people like that hanging out there. Of course, but that's when you were making it, you know.
Of course.
You wouldn't have access to those type of places unless you were.
By October 1967, the Bee Gees had their first UK number one.
I'm going back to Massachusetts. Something's telling me.
The Haunting Massachusetts topped the charts for weeks. But for Robin, the celebrations were short-lived when he came close to losing his life in one of Britain's worst railway disasters.
In the event of something happening to me, there is something I would like you all to see.
I was in the Hither Green train crash, which was a very bad train crash in '67, the same year as Massachusetts hit number one.
What did that feel like? Like, at the time, did you feel that you were kind of lucky to survive?
Yeah, lucky to survive is more than guilty, because I saw a lot of unpleasant things. You had all these people around you that were incapacitated by wounds that nobody was attending to. And it was 90 miles an hour we overturned near Charing Cross. I feel lucky.
to have survived it. I wish I hadn't seen what I saw, because I don't like to see people suffer anyway. Life is one of those things you don't get out of it alive, and there are things that happen that you have to deal with, and this was one of them.
Robin was very lucky to escape with his life, but once he recovered, the band went on to release hit after hit. By now, the Bee Gees were firmly established as British pop stars, and it was during this time that Robin's twin Maurice met Lulu. They were married for 4 years. Despite the short marriage, the couple stayed lifelong friends, and to this day, Robin and Lulu also remain very close.
To love somebody, to love somebody, the way I love you. No, that's true.
At this point, I had a feeling of being drawn to a different, more spiritual area of the house, and I asked Robin to take me to the medieval chapel in the grounds that is also part of his estate.
It's been a chapel in use, a Catholic chapel, for 800 years. And it's been consecrated for that amount of time, and still is a consecrated chapel, because it was built at the same time as the St. Mary's Church, and it was customary to have use your own chapel instead of going to the church of the village, for instance.
It is a really beautiful spiritual space, isn't it? It just has that air about it.
Yeah, it's great for meditation, and it's quiet, and it's a great place to come to reflect.
There's some amazing old things in this place. Do you know how far they date back?
Well, I know this statue here of Mary holding the child of the ball dates back to the 1500s. So that's pretty old, but there's an older one in the window, in the cradle of the window here, that goes back to the 1400s.
And this is the lady that, I think when I looked at Ella, she's standing on a serpent, or she has the serpent beneath.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
It's quite something, that, because it reminds me very much of the old Tibetan things where the deities would be above all the demons and things, so it's a bit like she is above.
Them at bay.
Yeah. Something else. Being in the chapel helped focus my mind, and I got a strong sense that the spirit world was moving closer to us. So I was keen to sit down with Robin and tune into the spirits around him. It's funny, even as I'm sitting here tuning in, and all the while I've been chatting to you, listening to you, and walking around the house, several people I have felt being very, very close to. Your father, I feel, very, very close. And seems to be the closest person to you at the moment. This presence of him, I have to say, is something that's very forceful at the moment. But there's a joyfulness that he's bringing through at the moment. I know that you have connections in America and Miami and things, but there's something he's very happy about that's going on between here and America just now. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like he's telling you, I've been with you, and I'm so happy about this, almost like this new creation. And it's like he's behind it, or he's helping.
He kind of lived his life through us.
Yeah.
Things that he never really could do in his own life, he lived through us.
Yeah.
And of course, when we decided not to do something, it was kind of a sort of a drag to him, because he wanted to see things through, and I think it makes sense that he's happy that something is happening with that involves me and Barry.
Great.
And bringing us together again, and so that makes sense.
Good. He was tired before he passed to the spirit world. He was a very active, fit man, but all of a sudden I feel tired, and it's almost like he's saying, I'm not like that now. Think of me how I was when I was at my best, because that's how I feel. He has a great smile, your father. He could actually light up a room when he smiled, and when he laughed, he has a really good laugh, and that's how I'm hearing him at the moment. There's so many children, and it's your father talking about the grandchildren now. They just keep crossing over one then the other, and just saying that he puts his arm around them all, and he loves your son. He's sending all this love, and this is from his grandfather to your father to his grandson. It's just saying, tell him I just love him and want him to know that.
My father got very close to RJ, my son, very close to the end before he died, at least that year before he died, quite close to him. and built a bond.
I don't know whether you know that your son actually has spoke to him or connected to him, to your father, whether it be in a dream or whether it be, I don't know, but he says he knows what I'll mean. So there's something very sensitive then about your son, that he would know that his grandfather and that his uncles are around him in the spirit world, but they have already been round him. Since their brother Maurice died in 2003, Robin and Barry have maintained their solo careers but rarely perform as the Bee Gees.
Here I am, praying for this moment to last.
Seeing it in strange writing, "We are one," keeps running round my head here. And that's something that I just feel that's directly from Maurice to yourself, to say we are one. And I feel as though that whatever you do creatively, you cannot do it without him, in or out of the body. You can't. He is still that force that works with you, through you. And he's sending out so much love to so many people. And I just feel that that's something he has to say. Keep going on, keep doing what you're doing, because it was too long, this gap. Now it's time to push forward. And it's getting easier. It's actually, my God, it's almost like it feels like someone's lifting you and making you do things. And it actually is somebody that's doing that. And it's this beautiful spiritual force. Again, no regrets in my life. It's a case of no regrets. And that's something he's laughing about. No regrets. And isn't it ironic that when we try and make ourselves better is when we actually get ill? And he's laughing at this, because he must have had a good sense of humour in that sense, where he would take things that could potentially upset people and make them fun. And that's just the way he is. He's just smiling at that.
Come in, come in. No.
I don't know why, but he's handed me a big fur coat, and I don't know what this is about, but it's like a big grey fur coat that I've got to put around myself here, and he's laughing at this, and he says, take your mind back to that. So there's a memory connected to that.
The big fur coat was the form when I did Massachusetts. I wore when we first promoted our first #1. So it could be referring to that.
Yeah.
And going, when I think what he says by that is meaning going back to our roots.
Yeah. Because sometimes it is a symbolic gesture like that will take your mind to a place and say that's what it is. There's so many voices coming in, and it just feels like everybody's shouting in my head at the moment. There's a whole crowd of people. 4 a.m. seems to be a time when they actually connect to you. 4 o'clock, and I feel as though that's Maurice saying, that's when I come and sit beside you at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay? And it's when you're keeping the night fires burning. He says, I come and I join you and I watch you and I link to your mind at that point. I'll tell you what, whatever's coming up in the autumn is something that's golden, it's good. And it just feels like there's this spiritual power pushing it to say it's going to be special. So remember every time you write a note or hit a note that there's somebody else, there's 2 being played. And one's on a higher level and one's on this level. Coming up, I learn more about the tragic death of Robin's younger brother, Andy.
He was a bit of a wild card. He was hard to look after because even though he was an adult, one of his biggest enemies was him, himself.
I also discover how the Bee Gees almost single-handedly created the disco era of the 1970s. As a member of the Bee Gees, Robin Gibb has written and performed some of the most iconic songs of our time. But his life hasn't been without tragedy. In 2003, Robin's twin Maurice died. It was a tragic and sudden death, and with Maurice gone, everything changed for the Bee Gees. Losing his twin brother clearly had a real impact on Robin. During my time with him, I constantly felt the presence of Maurice. So it comes as no surprise to me that he has many messages to get across to his twin brother. It one of my favourite songs that you ever did was The 1st of May. But he's singing that, okay? And you've got to pass that on to someone that he's singing that, okay?
Don't ask me why, but time has passed us by.
And I actually know it's tomorrow that you're going to have to pass that on, okay? And all right then. And she'll know why, is what I've got to say to you, okay? And that's for someone particular, but she'll know why he's passing that song on. And I feel as though that's something kind of private or personal between him and someone else, but he says you will know. Because there must have been a telepathy between you, in that sense, a very strong telepathy. Not only can twins be telepathic, but also just the connection of the creativity between you is so deep that there was so much unspoken that was just known. And it's almost like he's saying, you will know why I'm singing that song and who it's to be passed on to. It's a message, okay?
Yeah.
All right, bless you. Actually, it's for Lulu, okay?
Yeah.
And tell her I'm singing the song to her. So this is what he wants you to do. He's very, very much with you just now. And he's just so happy because you've actually started. He's just saying that your mum's happy because she's wanted you to get involved or get moving. So he's involved with her mind, with your mind, so it's to let you know that he's active with everyone. There's so many people that he's sending love to at the moment, and I feel that he's connected. And your father's just shouted to mention Las Vegas. And it's something to do with your mum. I don't know why, but it's almost like the two of them are shouting over each other here.
That's where he died, in Las Vegas.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that.
It's where he was taken ill, and the house they lived in, although it's still there, my mother lives in Miami, at my house.
And again, sometimes they'll use a statement or a word just to say or trigger things, and there'll be so much comes. I just have to let everything come as I can, because it's like a window of time opening up for them, and they're just pushing through and pushing through. And I've got to take you to the month of March. Go back to March this year, and there's flowers or something that were laid. There was flowers, but there's a tree planted as well. I've got to say thank you for a tree that was planted, and this is not all right. Bless you. I actually get a strong sense, though, that this is your younger brother or your youngest brother. And I feel as though he's the one that's bringing this forward here.
You got me looking at that heaven in your eyes. I was chasing your direction. I was telling you no lies, and I was
The youngest of the Gibb brothers was Andy. He was born 9 years after Robin and Morris and was 12 years younger than Barry. Andy was too young to be part of the group, but he eventually had a very successful solo career in the late 70s. Sadly, his life was tragically cut short when he died of heart problems shortly after his 30th birthday. Now, your father's talking about the 5th as being an important date. He's just writing this up here, but you will know what that means, because it's an important date in more than one occasion. It has certain kind of meanings. There's like birthdays, there's anniversaries, there's all sorts of things. I have... What is that you're giving me here? All right. Do you know there must be two people, either two people in the family who share the same birthday, or somebody died on somebody's birthday? There's a significant crossing over of...
Well, my father and my young brother, Andy, died pretty much at the same time of the year. It was in March, and it was Andy's birthday. There's the relevance
bringing
there.
In where there's that kind of crossing over of birth and
so that
death
would work with Andy and who was my younger brother and who died pretty much on his birthday, and my father dying on the same day. Andy did sing in Las Vegas as well, because that's why my mother lived there, my mother and father lived there, because they actually practically took care of him most of the time. And which wasn't easy, because he was a bit of a wild card. He was hard to look after, because even though he was an adult, one of his biggest enemies was himself.
Andy's public image was that of the clean living boy next door, but behind the teen idol looks was a very troubled soul. Andy was a cocaine addict, using the drug to boost his self-confidence.
Time you're dealing with an invisible force, which sometimes we all have, and sometimes they're out of control.
Of course.
So that makes sense, the Las Vegas thing, because he was there because of Andy.
Good. Despite writing and recording his own songs and being #1 in the US charts, Andy was uncomfortable with the public recognition that came with his success, and his drug use began to spiral out of control. And there's a shyness about him, almost this is going to sound silly, I feel like an insignificance. Does that make sense?
Well, he never felt he always felt he was competing with the three of us, but we always tried to make him feel we wanted him to feel like he was one of us. He always felt he was on the outside looking in.
That's just the feeling I get from him, almost as though there's just this quietness that's...
He was very shy.
Yeah, even a nervousness about...
You're very nervous.
Yeah, and that's the feeling I get. And actually, there was a heck of a lot of hypertension that ran through his being. And no matter how talented or whatever he would have had success-wise, this was actually part of his nature, was to feel really, really kind of hypertense. Just days after celebrating his 30th birthday at Robin's house in Oxfordshire, Andy checked into hospital complaining of chest pains. Within 24 hours, he had died of myocarditis, an inflammation of the tissue around the heart, thought to be aggravated by long-term drug abuse. But you know what? There's something beautiful about, again, somebody who passes at a young age that they're almost immortalised. And it's something beautiful that he's trying to show that can never change. He'll always be that, if you know what I mean, that beautiful young person who, there's certain things between him and your father that have been balanced on the other side.
Andy performed in Las Vegas, and he actually died here. My father actually felt responsible. And when Andy died, he felt that he let him down. He wasn't here because he wasn't with him. That he felt guilty.
Incidentally, that might have been where I'd felt they'd balanced something together.
He never got over it. I don't think it. My mother got over it faster. But my father always dwelt on the fact that he wasn't around.
Despite their popularity as a group, the Bee Gees have always considered themselves as songwriters first and performers second. In fact, every song they have ever recorded has been written by them. It is this ability to write unforgettable pop songs that's been the true secret to their success.
Well, it's always great, and it's flattery, obviously, to have anybody sing your songs. Robert Stigler said to us in 1967, write for 40 years from now. So people will always be able to relate to it, even the unborn.
Yeah. All those classic songs that came from that time, even though the old Tamla stuff. And
you can still relate to them because
people can still record them and they still sound good.
It's emotions.
Yeah.
And people young and old will always be able to relate to that factor. And if you start thinking about events and situations and what's cool, what's not, then they become dated very fast. But relationships never do.
No. In the mid-1970s, the brothers relocated to Miami. They were big fans of R&B music and were keen to find a new sound for the group. What they didn't realise was they were about to create a worldwide disco phenomenon. They had just started working on a new album when their manager Robert Stigwood called with news that was to dramatically change their lives.
Robert called us from Los Angeles and said that Paramount were making this movie with John Travolta. We do have any music. And we said we've been here for a week recording a live album, mixing a live album, but we've written, while we've been here, these songs. One of them, we read them, Staying Alive, More Than a Woman, How Deep Is Your Love, If I Can't Have You, Night Fever, etc. Come and have a listen.
So these weren't actually specifically written for the film?
They were written for a studio album, because we were already working on a live album at that time, so we decided to work on a studio album at the same time. One of those songs was Staying Alive, because Barry said one night, let's do a song that emulates the heartbeat, the human heart. So we've got Blue Weaver to lie down and put electrodes on his heart, sent it through the control room. So we did a loop for the first time around the human heart. But then they came and listened to it and they said, yeah, so on the nard, they do. You never get the saying, oh, yeah, so we're going gold. On the nard, you could hear the birds whistling.
Yeah.
And they took it all. We never heard a thing until the opening of Fever 9 months later. And it was a very low-budget movie, but it was like Star Wars. It was just absolutely unbelievable. The reaction to the movie was just staggering.
The soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever was #1 for a staggering 6 months. Even now, it is still the highest-grossing film soundtrack of all time. Its success turned these 3 unassuming brothers into the biggest singing stars in the world. It must have been difficult with the music being so successful and people associating the Bee Gees with everything to do with that movie to keep yourself balanced or have any kind of normality.
Well, living through those times, it's like living in a sort of big vacuum.
Yeah.
Because you carried on with your life, your jeans and t-shirt, and gone with it because you had to.
Yeah.
You weren't going into nightclubs and playing the big guy or the celebrity. You just wanted to carry on being a normal guy, being at home.
But being a normal guy was not an option. After the break, I learn how the Bee Gees' success was to self-implode. And I receive an important psychic message for Robin about his future. After the release of the film Saturday Night Fever, the Bee Gees were arguably the most popular band in the world. But this created a media backlash against them. So much so that some radio stations started promoting Bee Gee-free weekends. So the brothers decided to step back from performing and started writing for other recording artists. This was the start of a new era of fascinating collaborations and yet more wonderfully iconic songs.
With the love you're living on, you gotta be mine. We take it away. It's gotta be done better. It's done better at time. And we gotta do it to our love. We're coming in out.
I mean, these were all top hits, weren't they? I think they were all #1s.
Yes,
Yeah.
all #1s. And they're temp holes for their careers as well. If you think you're going to write a hit for someone else, you've got to like it too, you know. But the fact that they were #1 and great for their careers as well, you know, is good for you too, because it always comes back to you
Of course.
at the end of the day.
Of course. By the 1980s, you guys were absolute superstars. And there must have been talk of Andy coming on board as the 4th Bee Gee.
Well, there always had been talk of Andy coming on as 4th Bee Gee. Andy knew it, and we knew it. But I think it was Andy that was probably holding back on himself, because I think he still felt he wanted to prove himself on his own. So, but we always had the door open whenever we were ready, and he was ready. And the door was never closed on Andy being a 4th Bee Gee. There was an age difference, but certainly there was a question of a comfort zone as well. It was really for Andy to make the move and say, I want to be a 4th Bee Gee. There was that as well.
Sadly, apart from an occasional guest appearance, Their troubled baby brother, Andy, never did become the fourth Bee Gee.
Couldn't be what everybody is. Shouldn't let you get me when I'm down my bed.
The 1980s became another golden era for the Bee Gees, as they went on to write and produce albums for Diana Ross, Kenny Rogers, Dionne Warwick and Barbra Streisand. And both Robin and Barry also released solo albums. The 90s were another great decade for the Bee Gees.
Yeah, it was the decade where we received were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in America and the Brit Awards for contribution to British music. Just before Morris died, we made CBEs as well.
Yeah.
Sadly, Morris wasn't able to pick it up, but me and Barry received it on his behalf.
For me, coming here today, first of all, it's the greatest pleasure to be allowed into this amazing place and into your life, and just your openness to being who you are and the life you've come through is amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons I felt people come so close so easily, because there is a lot of a nice emotional link there, which is so important. And I think that's something that you genuinely have felt through your life.
Yeah.
With the people that you've loved. You've genuinely felt love. A lot of people go through this life with people and don't connect or don't feel the love, whether it be hurt or joy. It's all part of the same scale. And it's that makes me feel, wow, it's so easy to work with somebody who actually connects on that level of emotion. For me, the feeling is the best is still to come. And in a sense, to say that to somebody who's achieved so much, but there's still another notch to go up where, wow, do you think we could do something else that's going to... But I think it's part of your destiny, that, yeah, you will just keep doing that. But when you think of that, even the feelings of sort of your destiny, it sounds to me like no matter what was going to be put in front of you, or the three of you, there was nothing actually going to stop you from reaching that point that you all had to reach.
There's so many reasons to say no to things, and it's easy to say no, or to excuse yourself from doing something or an action. Than it is to. Some people find it hard to do damn the torpedoes.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a damn the torpedoes attitude.
Absolutely.
To achieve, because you've got to have that temperament.
The feelings I got earlier was that there's a real spiritual force around both yourself and Barry to push you to do something soon that is going to be another decade of musical memories for people. And I just hope it works out as fabulous as I feel it does. My day with Robin was nearly at an end, but I had one last message of reassurance for him, which his twin brother Morris insisted I pass on. I also get this really... I'll tell him, hold on a second, somebody's actually started singing a song that's not a Bee Gees song, considering there can't be many songs that are not written by the Bee Gees, but there's somebody singing a song, Send in the Clowns. Send in the Clowns.
I know the songs.
Yeah, and I feel as though there's some kind of importance to that, or relevance. It seems to me like, all right then, bless you. I don't know if you can pass that on to your mother. I feel as though that's something for her. She'll know immediately, because it's almost like there's a very strong relevance with the song. Hold on a second then, bless you. Yes, you do know. I wouldn't tell you do know, but somebody's telling me that you do know, that it's not just the song, that it's like a memorial. It was sung for somebody. It was actually sung for somebody who had died. And I actually feel as though it's your brother, your twin brother, Morris, because it's a sense of him coming in, and he's just smiling. And again, like your father, this lovely, lovely broad smile that he's bringing in to say that they are together. He's really, really just full of life again. He's taken me back and forward to America, and he's talking about the autumn time. And he's saying, I'll be with you both in the autumn time. So, all right then. We are one. There's something he's wrote here, we are one. And as he puts that, it's almost like in the autumn time, there's something coming, something new coming, and I feel as though it's musically, but it's really good. It's very positive. And it's also causing, it's like a whole new sort of episode.
Yeah.
And I feel as though those around you in the spirit world are very happy about this and also still connected. Because we can't ever really lose somebody that we love. That's actually impossible. The love never goes. That's why it hurts sometimes, and it's why it heals as well. And I just feel we've come to a point now of healing. And this is what I feel your brother's saying. This is the time now to recognise that it's the spirit of three people.
Yeah.
So it's the spirit that's actually, if you like, more important than the physical.
And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really mean to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down.
Despite worldwide fame and fortune, Robin Gibb has had his own share of tragedy. And for anyone, the death of a loved one, be it friend or family, is never easy to deal with. But do try to remember that love never really dies. And so you never really lose those who pass on. They simply exist in another place. And if you've made that connection of love and that special bond, then they will be one with you forever.
Well, next Psychic Thursday, share a couch with the lady who has lived one heck of a life, Samantha Fox. One amazing story told from two different points of view. A bio premiere of Psychic Investigators is next.